Okay, let's get going. We'll share this if you don't mind sharing.
I'm going to start the slides.
Yes, please.
Do that.
I feel like I'm back in the business world. Although I do have to do this when I consult once in a while. Because so much of it's been Zoom. Josh, I don't know if you could skip to the next slide. And the next one, I'm sorry. So we budgeted about 15, 20 minutes. We're going to introduce each other. I did the building slide, so you have to hit the button all the time probably. Just hit enter.
Sorry.
That's the
Keep
second.
going.
This is probably the second slide, not the first slide, unless I messed up when I sent it to you.
This is the second slide.
Okay. There you go.
There we
This
go.
one.
Yeah.
So we don't have to introduce ourselves. So we just saved 5 minutes, so we're back on track. What do we say next here? Just, I think I start getting into other updates. Approval of minutes. I'm not big on the Robert's Rule of Laws, but somebody motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Mo motioned. Everybody approve? Okay.
I'll second.
Minutes are approved. Actually, I did have an issue. I think I said 5:20. It was actually 5:27 and not 5:24 as far as the meeting. I might have made a mistake on the date, but everything else was fairly accurate. I think we had a good meeting last time.
We'll give you a pass on that one.
A lot of good discussions. So
On that one.
Your mistake for the week.
So action items from last meeting, if you want to skip ahead, Josh, I think I don't even look at my notes here. Go ahead, I think the next one will pop up stuff that I was doing. So SWAT, why don't we just go ahead and build the rest of it out? So we've done a lot of work on SWATs and the executive council, we had a good meeting with them and this was the heads of all the committees. And they were really engaged. I think they really appreciated it. The only thing I felt bad is we took up most of their meeting. But they also, some of them wanted to go back to their committee members to get input on it, which is all good. So I gave them a deadline to try to get back to me or Mo by the 15th or something like that. But in the meantime, we had developed, pretty good consensus. And if you look at that versus the next one, the Ocean Pines organization, the department heads, there are some similarities there. I would say, and what I liked about the department, they really took it serious. They did a great job. And again, Josh, thanks for staying on top of everybody and working with John to get that done. It was nice that it was balanced. It wasn't like 5 strengths and 30 weaknesses. It was, there was a fair number of strengths, fair number of weaknesses. And there was consensus on the strengths and weaknesses, but it was interesting on the opportunities. It was more independent individual department perspectives of what they needed. So there wasn't as much consensus on the opportunities, which is wrong. As opposed to the executive council, I think there was more consensus. And that makes sense. You asked them to do a SWOT, you didn't give them direction. So if you're head of golf, you're going to say, listen, I need an irrigation system. But it is interesting. And Colette, that is something then when it comes down to what are your plans? The work that they did on strengths and opportunities, and I'm thinking of the golf one where we talked about getting more residents engaged and having more people participate in the dining over there. It is something that, he should develop some plans for that, specifically. We're not going to do that as a strategic plan.
Right.
But I think they can always refer back to that as individual departments. And I'm just rambling right now.
Yeah, and at budget time, departments build like a business plan.
Good.
And so we had, I don't know if they all did it this year, but last year everybody submitted a written business plan.
Good.
For each department.
Good. Was there any?
I had the thought as I read through this, from the staff perspective, they're looking for opportunities for advancement and education within the infrastructure of the employment situation. You know what I mean? I thought that was a really interesting takeaway because that could certainly be built on.
Yes. And I'll answer you, and I had more of an appreciation for what they do and how committed they are to doing it, I guess, after, I feel like I know them now, like, or something, even though I don't. But I mean, they all took it seriously, and there was a theme in there, and I sent a note to Colette, which was, labor, pay scale, advancement opportunities. There was a couple things like that where they felt competing for other, against other businesses in this area. And it's like that with COVID especially, but I did get the sense that ends up being, maybe the summary of 4 or 5 of those things as an opportunity. I'm sorry, Rob.
I was just, and I guess maybe Jenny's comments kind of dovetailed my question, but I was wondering, was there anything like really that jumped out? And obviously, Jenny touched on that particular item, but was there any other items that really said, oh, this is something we really need to tune in on?
I'd have to look at the document again, but nothing there. It does seem like there was some consistency. Safety, amenities, police force, it was just nice hearing from everybody. It was more in the weaknesses or opportunities that there was some of this labor and things like that. I think we'll have time, Josh. I hate to do it to you, but do you want to pull that up, which was the other document on the
Yeah, not a problem. I've got it all loaded. We talking about the SWAT summary?
Yeah, the SWAT summary, for the leadership. So, I mean, the X's were, as I pointed out, were the ones that, we had 5 or 6 votes for safe community, amenities, location, some of them were worded differently. I tried to keep this just exactly the same. So you can, maybe a dedicated police force, it should have been up with the own police force and fire department. So I might have missed that one. And I just wanted to get it in Colette's hands. So it was, there's just a lot of good stuff in there. You can almost see when you get to here, this was the goal, he had all his individual things. You could almost guess who did what other than the consistency. So things that they thought were either issues or opportunities. But go on the weaknesses. That's a good one. If you want to scroll down. As far as consistency. So board, it is, I looked at this and board of director turnover and some of the politics that goes on. There was another one there about lack of respect from the board of directors. But I start saying it's like, if there is this opportunity to work, I guess, better together, and I'm not involved with the politics, but should he consider longer terms? I don't know.
Yeah, that would take a change in governing documents. And the people have, kind of kicked around, that option versus status quo. And, one of the strengths of longer terms is that you do have stability.
Yeah.
One of the weaknesses is if you have factions on a board that aren't getting along, that just prolongs the agony for more years and the dysfunction, really, for more years. So this last year, I don't think it's, Josh, you might know better because you covered Ocean Pines for a long time, but I'm not sure how often it is that people sign up for a second, run for a second term. And last year and this year, we're seeing that. So, and that I think is a source of stability when that happens.
Finishing out their terms, right. That's another thing that would help with stability is just completion of existing terms.
That's true.
And actually, this one here, the board of director turnover, just for Colette's benefit, it was like 3 voted just turnover, and then 1 had turnover / politics. So I combined them, but it was more turnover than politics.
Yeah, well, the turnover is a big source of angst for the employees.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
So that's, this time of year, everybody's kind of on pins and needles over how's the election going to turn out? How is that going to affect us as employees?
Yeah.
They hear the rhetoric of the candidates, which isn't always nice rhetoric.
Yeah.
So,
and the criticisms and the criticisms change with it. And priorities change. So it really does make it hard to finish out projects.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
being
That's
in
true.
a term for
Yeah.
a longer, being in a term for a longer period of time, also provides, it's a learning opportunity, because I'm sure as a board member, you have to learn, a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of new
there's a
board
steep
members
learning
come
curve.
in, green.
Yeah.
So having a longer term, the advantage to that, yes, there may be disadvantages. Factions may, hang out longer, but then that learning curve, that orientation, so to speak, by the time you get into the groove, you may not run again. So
That's
Yeah.
almost
Right.
all volunteer leadership. Personally, and this is just a personal perspective, I wouldn't be in favor of longer terms. I would be in favor of a requirement to have participated on the committee level in some capacity for a period of time
good idea.
Yeah.
before.
Well,
In
It's
advance.
sort of a
Yeah,
path to
yes and
leadership.
no.
We talk about this
Yes.
too, and we can't get the commitment.
Yeah, but Jenny, the downside of that is that it's really not possible for part-timers to be as engaged at the committee level. And I do think that we get a different perspective from people who have not been so entrenched. They come at this with, if they have any experience with board governance or city council governance, that kind of thing, they have that level of experience, so they know the process stuff. They may not know the content stuff, but they're also more likely to be more independent of the politics. And I see that as a good thing.
Yeah.
And of course, speaking for myself, I was one of those people that was not engaged at the committee level. And I think I've had a pretty successful run as a director.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to solve that here, Jenny, but it's a good point. But it struck me as the whole, staff concern, not necessarily, it was more about turnover than anything else.
Yeah.
And consistency, I guess, which I now understand, which it was new learning to me. The one that also stood out that was interesting, and I'm not sure if it's a completely accurate, but GM turnover, just one comment, but we've had, if not 4, maybe 3 GMs in the last 5 years, which is interesting. So you have board, plus you have leadership turnover. So that was another one that just stood out, even though it was only one comment. Let's get on to opportunities. And this is the one where, well, you'll see a bunch of votes together up in the other ones. This one, there wasn't quite as many. And we might need to add to this with board input or GM input. But the only one, there's only expand partnerships with county, state, and other agencies. The only one that really had 2 votes. Everything else was more independent. Maybe they're getting burnt out by the time they got to this point. I also, Steve Phillips had a good comment just about, which I understand because my wife plays pickleball, and I went over there for the pickleball tournament, and it's like, what an operation over there. And I think, and when I went to the executive council, they talked about the issue of balancing outside people coming in. It's a nice problem to have where, there's so much demand for it. And if you think about it, you take a step back, and you could talk about Ocean Pines being unique, like location. Nobody could ever take that away from us. It's almost a competitive advantage that we have. Our amenities, or particularly with the beachfront properties, but you look at within our amenities, hardly anybody could touch our racket facilities, And so I think where Steve Phillips' comment was, boy, what a business model. How can we do more of that? Is there an opportunity to do more of that where you're actually potentially making money from outside the community, to support things inside? So it was just, for me, from a strategy standpoint, it was kind of interesting that there's nothing like that within 20, 30 miles, particularly for pickleball, So anyway, I'm rambling. So let's go to, I don't know if anybody's in their comments, but it's the one thing, there is more opportunities there. So expanding volunteer base and things like that. And then threats are usually, negative news and social media distraction was the number one thing. And for me, I felt for them. It's like they're getting all this stuff, they read it in the paper, and they're just trying to do their job. and do it well, and they get all this other stuff. But natural disasters, absolutely. It was mostly, there was one or two pandemic and then natural disaster. Overcoming pandemic was another one. So I didn't want to group any of these together yet, but there was some definite, you can summarize these down into a couple themes, and then there's individual ones that probably will be eliminated at some point. But the executive council, I think Colette got back to me and said, hey, there was some definitely consistency in the top, strengths, top weaknesses, and in this case, top threats. So again, thank you, Josh. And again, I don't know, I think I copied John, but hopefully you can get back to them and show them how the work, how their voice was listened to and is being captured. You can go back to the screen now. Thank you.
Just takes a second.
So departments completed, next steps, again, I think Colette, you were saying that we were just talking briefly before the meeting, and I'll let you talk about where we, with the 21st, that we might give the.
Right, that for Bernie and Mo to give a presentation to the board on the process and where your committee is at this point and next steps. And I think, with the opportunity for them to engage with you guys and discuss their perspective. I have been updating them on, kind of at high level, the stuff that you guys have been doing, but they wouldn't have seen this.
Yeah.
And you have those great charts, flow charts of, where we've been and where we're headed. And I think it would be really great for them to see that.
My concern, I mentioned to Colette that I'm not concerned about developing a strategy. I'm concerned, I want to get them engaged whenever we can. And she admitted that sharing what we're doing versus being part of the meeting will be a step forward with engagement of the board. So we're going to cover the survey. If we get to it, hopefully we're not going to have, if we have the time, if not, I'll just let you read it, but keep on going, Josh. Benchmarking, again, we didn't expect Mo to do it, and if you need help on that, Mo, I think it's going to become an important part. Some
of it done, but not all.
But if you need ones that you're missing or something, let me know that, because I think that's going to really, I read stuff in the paper and social media about, oh my goodness, our HOA fees are through the roof and things like that. And if we're able to have that information in one document where, no, they're not through the roof, it's actually a pretty good value to some of the other ones, or, governance, or a couple other minor points where we saw some differences. It's the data. And again, I'm happy to help. I've just been, in the last couple of days, I've been busy. And then we didn't really have any other questions that I know of for the thing benchmarking, but hopefully you guys learned a lot by doing the benchmarking you did.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was a good exercise.
Yeah, and I don't want to lose that. I summarize on a Word doc, but I think a better way would be actually have a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Try and reduce it down to an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You can go right down the line.
Yeah. And you can say, okay, three communities had this, 2 communities had this, and things like that.
Or you have one topic and you can look right across.
Yeah. Okay, let's pick up the pace here, Josh. And again, that was a great strategic plan you found, and I found it very helpful, and it's something that we'll compare to as we start to develop ours. I think we're going to get to hopefully the core values. So I looked at, I just thought it's something that we need to start thinking about. I think it's something we'd like to include in the survey, and the way it'll be worded is something like, some other HOA communities have core values. Do you feel Ocean Pines should have, core values? And we'll get a sense of what percentage feel that, that we should have them. And then those that answered yes, we had them, rate which one resonates the highest with you out of these 7. And that way it would get it down to the 4 recommendations we might make to the board. At least that's my proposed process for this, but it's open for discussion. So 1, should we have them? And 2, if we do, what should we incorporate? This could be, this might end up being one of the biggest things that come out of this plan is, yeah, I'm reading about the candidates and what they're going to do and this type of thing. And, but I mean, just to have, I mean, I know in companies that I worked at, it was critical, these core values, and you had to demonstrate the core values. You had performance reviews where did you demonstrate the core values, and how do you live up to the core values? And I'm not saying we're going to get there, but just what's Ocean Pines all about, or what do we want to be all about? And I think you had sustainability as one recommendation. But I'm going to turn it over to Helen, if you don't mind, just talking about what you did here, and
Sure.
what I thought we'd do is just go through these and try to get some consensus from the 5, 6, 7 people that are here that we might consider for Ocean Pines. And maybe I'd prefer not to be 10, but if it ends up being 10, we can, or maybe it's easier to eliminate the ones that don't fit. But go ahead, Ellen, just talk about what you did and.
Sure. Well,
thank
yeah,
you.
When we were, doing our benchmarking, and I'm sure, looking at different communities, communities that have strategic plans usually do have core values. And the core values, like I said, it guides an organization's planning, decision-making, and operations. And I can see where, especially for, like, I'm thinking about the new candidates, if they could speak to what our core values were, if we had them, then I think they can really, get their, what do you call it, their platform spelled out a little better. But values support the organization's vision, shape the culture, and core values can be expressed as single words or short phrases. So I just did some research about core values, and there are so many words that you can pull out. And I think when you look at all of them, we can all say, yeah, that's a good core value, stewardship, ownership. Do we own the community? How do we take care of the community? Transparency, we hear that all the time. We need to be transparent. Accountability, people want to know who the board members are, how the money is being spent, who made the decisions. Can you explain your decision making? Community, and I think that is a core value. We are a community. Diversity, accountability, I repeated that. Inclusion, health, dynamic continuous improvement, collaboration, integrity, innovation, quality. So these are all core values, like I said, that I think we've heard of and that are pretty easy to understand. And then I just thought the one neat one that I really thought was sustainability. I thought that's kind of a newer buzzword, and I didn't see that one very often, but I saw it several times. And just a couple little things I pulled out. The term sustainability in its basic meaning implies lasting. Sustainable communities are communities that will be places of enduring value. The environmental movement, with its concern for conservation of resources, has stimulated a revival of interest in the sustainability of the human community. I thought that was really neat, very applicable. A sustainable community can persist over generations, enjoying a healthy environment, prosperous economy, and a vibrant civic life. It does not undermine its social or physical systems of support. Rather, it supports in harmony with ecological patterns within it, in which it thrives. And I thought, that's kind of neat. That applies too. And then the last one I just pulled out says sustainable development provides a framework under which communities can use finite resources effectively, create efficient infrastructures, protect or enhance the environment and quality of life, and create new businesses to strengthen their economies. And you just made, when you were talking just a few minutes ago about, no.
Did join in the meeting.
Yeah. I have 2 dogs. One dog is at the vet having dental, and I thought the other one wouldn't bark today. But anyways, when you were just talking about the racket sports and what a business opportunity that would be, and then, just looking at this one definition, what will our strategic plan do? It will guide us to use our resources efficiently to create efficient infrastructures, to protect our environment, et cetera. So I just thought that was a really neat core value to consider among all the others. So then I, you know, in grad school, we always had to do all these projects. I guess, you know, Bernie, you make your students do them. But we had to do, you know, a theoretical framework and always have a visual. So I went online and just Googled core values under images, and I came up with this diagram that you see here. And that was from a community in Shell Harbour, Australia. It was really neat. You know, I thought, boy, this is one we could have benchmarked. I didn't go into it too deeply, but they had a great strategic plan. But I saw these core values and the way that they depicted them in this little visual. And I liked it. You know why I liked it? Because it had the word sustainability. And I thought somebody else used that. And then they had about 3 or 4 sentences explaining each core value that they adopted, and I just summarized it. But I have the link there at the bottom if you're interested in looking further. But I think collaboration, seek opportunities to work with the community, communicate openly and honestly to ensure information is shared in a timely and efficient manner. And I see some of these going with the strengths and weaknesses, kind of addressing what people were saying. Accountability, take responsibility for our actions, produce results, and recognize our responsibility to learn, change, and improve performance. Integrity, pretty clear. Behave professionally, ethically, and reliably, maintaining transparency. It's the other big buzzword, and we have it in there. And respect, welcome differences in backgrounds, experiences, and viewpoints, treating everyone with fairness and equity. And then the last one was sustainability, which again, I thought just really applies to our strategic plan. Adopt a long-term view in the decisions we make and the actions we take so we can deliver enduring benefits to our community well into the future. So, you know, you have the buzzwords, we know what they mean. We have to decide, you know, how many we want. I don't think we need a lot, right? I mean, like you said, 4 to 7.
Yeah, I mean, 4 or 5. I remember my last company, we went through this process and they had 15 core values. And it's like, if you ask me what the 15 were, like,
You have no idea.
no idea.
Right.
So we got it down to 4 or 5 and because it was prioritized and it made, you know, I can articulate what those 4 or 5 were, but the 15 was just too much. So,
And sometimes it's neat if you could have a little acronym, you know, these are core values, you know, done. But I didn't go that far. But so those are just my thoughts. And the core values should guide your strategic plan. You know, how is this?
Helen, if I could just comment from the board perspective, I think that these 5 that you have selected really hit on the areas that the board struggles with performing in a way that satisfies the needs and priorities of the membership. And they also hit upon the things that, as we get emails, we get a lot of emails criticizing us, questioning us. The things that we get those questions about really fall within these 5. So I think you've really hit on 5 that if we can focus on these and build our strategic plan around these, that that we're going to really be headed in the right direction.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
thanks. This was really good work.
Good stuff, yeah.
Well, it was like a bingo when I hit that Shell Harbour community, you know, I said, oh, that's really cool. And then I was thinking, gee, if I was in grad school, I would make those core values in the middle and put community in there because, you know, we do, you know, our
About the same
community
thing.
should drive us, you know, but so that's my 2 cents.
what are you doing the next month? I have to figure out something else I could ask you to do.
I don't know. Yeah, I might be busy.
Yeah,
This is good
so this is really good. So one question I had was, so did you on the sustainability, were they just a couple different the ones up top, the first 3, were they just different
lost you.
definitions?
Your volume.
Okay, now we might,
I'm sorry. Yeah,
is this better?
on the sustainability, and then I lost you. Yeah.
The 3 or 4 paragraphs you had before you got into your recommendations, were they just different definitions you saw?
Yeah, just from different little, here and there. I didn't annotate that or anything, but anytime I saw something cool, I kind of cut and pasted it.
Jenny, what do you think?
Well, the only question that I have is more of an elementary question. With core values, do you include any practicalities like financial stability? Or are these more, because I think this is awesome.
I think that, Jenny, I think that some of those kind of practicalities fall within these.
Well,
Like
I was
under,
thinking that
I
too.
see
was thinking,
financial accountability falling under
Accountability.
sustainability.
Yeah, and I would just to answer your question, sorry, Colette, it's, in the business world, you would never see make money or be profitable as a value. I mean, it was almost, it might say, no, actually, it wouldn't be even increase in shareholder value as a value. It would be more of an objective. So
they're not practicalities. This is more value oriented, obviously.
I view this as high level strategy. And then you got underneath that, then the tax, how do you attain accountability?
Yeah, and guiding.
Producing results, i.e. financial stability.
Yeah, guiding decision-making is how I look at it.
That's a great.
That,
Yeah.
we want to be able to say that the decisions we're making, reflect the goal of sustainability, respect for differences in interests, priorities, backgrounds, that they're carried out with integrity, that we're accountable to the community and how we make the decisions, getting input from stakeholders and so forth, that we work together with the community, collaboration. So I think this is from a board perspective, these would be really great to have as guiding principles for every decision that we make, really.
You can plug them all into a core value.
Right.
Yeah.
Josh, your thoughts? Are you working on the logo already, Josh?
No, I think it looks good. I'm all for open communication. That caught my eye. That's definitely something we try to do.
How about you, Mo?
I think it's right on in terms of just keeping it relatively simple.
2 that I had here that, again, I think we want to get it down to 4 or 5 like you have here. What about inclusion?
Well, inclusion, do we not have that welcoming differences in backgrounds? You mean rather than having respect in lieu of respect?
I think that's kind of, that was my view. It kind of fell under that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where I was going with that is something I'm surprised Jenny didn't brought up is just the whole volunteerism, being part of the process, being engaged in your community.
And that's in the collaboration though, too.
And wouldn't that be,
This is why we're doing this, just to bounce it back and forth.
Yeah.
I'm not married to it. I just, I would not say, for example, one that I wouldn't consider would be innovation. I don't think Ocean Pines would ever be considered an innovative community. It's just not in our strengths, and we probably don't want to be innovative. Our members would never let us be innovative. Now, Amazon is innovative. Kraft is not, as an example, I don't think Ocean Pine, so that's one that clearly says, no, it doesn't make sense. Right?
I don't think I would put it at the top of the list, but going back to your discussion earlier, your comments earlier, Bernie, about what we do with our racket sports.
Yeah.
That's, nobody else is really doing that. That's, in terms of our community, that's pretty innovative.
Yeah.
So, but I don't put that up in terms of the other ones that we've kind of looked at here.
Let's try another one then. How about healthy or health? And I just think, and maybe it's something that we can't really do as a community, but I would almost change it. It's probably not a core value, but healthy lifestyle. Does that fit anywhere?
Sustainability.
Sustainability.
Yeah.
I think it would. you know.
Yeah, enduring benefits in the
Quality
community.
of life.
Yeah,
Quality of
Well, and I
life.
think it falls under respect also, kind of respect for each other's needs for access to healthy options. You know, a lot of different fitness options.
yeah,
Sure.
You know, whatever.
okay. I'm not gonna bring up any other ones then. I thought, again, I think you did an awesome job. I've been, I've been involved with consolidating, and actually doing some research on values, but, yeah, I think it looks really good. We might, again, go back, Josh, I hate to be telling you what to do, but go back to the thing here, is I probably had some comments on here where we go next. Go back to the slide.
Yep, 1 second.
Thank you so much, Helen.
Oh, sure.
This is the next subject. I'm gonna get into the survey, but, I have to go back a slide or two.
Yeah, let me load it a different way here. It's not extremely fast to go between the one and the other.
I guess where I was going with this is we don't have to ask the homeowners everything, okay? I don't know that when I was at my last company that we did a survey of employees and say, vote for these top 5 values. So that's the question, is do we include it in a survey or not? How do you feel about these and I think your short definitions could work in a survey and have people prioritize, but you really only have 5 here, so it's not necessarily that we have to get them down to any lower. But that's the question is, do we want to include something like this in the survey? The question would be stated is, hey, many other homeowner associations with long-term plans have values, core values such as this. Do you feel Ocean Pine should incorporate that? And then you could ask them to, rate which of the 5 resonate with them the best. And maybe we end up going down to 4, but, do we ask them or not? And that's, I'm not married either way. Like I said, at companies, they typically, it's a senior management making the decision. We could take this to the board, make a recommendation and go with that. I'm glad to hear Colette, she's much closer to it than I am, that they would, things that they struggle with, things that they resonate with, things that we're finding out strengths and weaknesses. So thoughts
Yeah.
on taking it to a survey or not?
My guess is that if you ask the community to say you gave them 10 core values or whatever and say pick 5, you see how they all overlap. You know what I mean? It's all a
Yeah.
matter of the final one that you pick, because like you were just saying before, where do we fit health? Well, health can be in respect or in sustainability and that kind of thing. So my feeling is we would probably end up with about the same ones,
Yeah.
just like when looking at your strengths and weaknesses in this is you got from the board and the meetings and such, I have a feeling this is the exact same thing that we would get from the community, even the one about the biking, now the biking I know is a completely different ball game, but these are the kind of things that the community would say, those who would take the time to offer their input. I think what we have already is kind of a microcosm of what we will get in the end. But anyway.
So devil's advocate in me would say, then why not include it? Like, because then you get more buy-in, you had a voice in this.
Yes.
And the way I'd ask it is on a 1 to 10, which of these resonate with you the best or something like that, or
Right.
worded properly, but some might come in at 6 or 7 on average, but they're all above average. But I'm not married to including it. It's just, it's another series of questions we'd have to include.
Just give them the
One of the-
opportunity.
Why don't you circle back to it and see how many questions, because you don't want to end up with too long of a survey.
Nope,
Yeah.
no.
So the comment that I would have from the board perspective is, I think that you're going to end up with these 5, basically.
Yeah.
But I think what would be interesting to the board is to know how the community prioritizes these 5, because
Yeah.
sometimes these values are going to compete with each other
Yeah.
in certain decisions. And I would find that interesting if you put the 5 in and asked how, which one or ones resonate the most. I think that would really be interesting.
Yep.
It'd be a
As
good
you're,
perspective.
then, as you interpret the rest of your survey results,
Yep.
it might, give you some.
I think
really
that's a great
good
compromise.
information.
I
That way
agree, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
People
like
have
that.
a voice and yet you get some sense of, and again, when you do research and you ask them to rate these on a 1 to 10, and you have 500 people answer, it's like, hey, 4.60 for value A, 4.3 for value C. At some point, you might get to these 4 were this one was a little bit lower. It ended up being, just above average or something like that. So it's not a yes or no answer, it's degrees of, agreement. Mo, are you okay with that?
I'm just trying to think how a lot of people would really interpret it. I think they would. My concern would be that actually they probably would not understand exactly what we were after in this,
Yeah, that's true.
in all honesty.
But your definitions there were pretty good, I thought, the short definitions. So we'll see. We'll see when we draft the survey. We'll circle back to it. But at this point, I think what Colette mentioned was a good compromise. And I sort of, we'll get into the survey in a minute, but survey will be no longer than 15 minutes to complete. And we're going to test it before we field it. And I'm going through it and I'm thinking that this should not be a problem, but we're not there yet. So let's move on, Josh, if you want to, so the consent, so what, at this point, we'll circle back, but we'll plan to potentially include it. But we might have to eliminate if it's too many questions, but this is another one we could actually include with the board meeting, okay?
Exactly, yeah.
Here's something we came up with, or Helen came up with, and
Yeah, and I think
We
it'd
all
be
agree.
interesting to know how the board rates them.
I did.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're right on now.
Good question there, yeah,
That's perfect.
yeah.
You did that little Survey Monkey survey with us in past meetings. We could get the board to do respond to a little
Yeah,
survey.
absolutely.
Field test it.
Yeah, that's, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, on the spot,
And see what
Engage
you're
them.
gonna-
Yeah.
And see what you get back from the board
yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
and tell them there's no cheating on it. They have to do it individually.
And when I do those, it's usually anonymous, but you could get some consensus in that meeting, okay, something like that. So this one, so we thank you again, Helen. You made a complex issue a key part of what we're doing, and you basically nailed it. So, thank you so
Down to
much.
the Fisher Price level. Good.
That's awesome.
And Josh, if you have free time and want to work with it, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but we don't want to. Anyway, we don't have to get to there yet. So here's what I wrote down. The next section is about the survey, and when you do research, you write a research objective first, and you get agreement on that, and then after that, you build out the survey. And you can just leave it on that one page there that we just had, just a one-line statement there, Josh.
There we go.
So
Back here, or you would go?
Yeah, right
forward?
here, right here. I
Okay.
took, and I struggle with, is it property owners, is it homeowners? But anyway, so I wrote a proposed research objective for this committee to consider is to obtain input and insights. You could maybe just say attain input from Ocean Pines property owners. We could change the word on that, on the long-range plan for Ocean Pines. So it's not, it's, a research objective should be like, there's two aspects of it. It's like, who are you going to survey and what are you going to ask them, or what are you going to ask for, in the survey? And so the only reason I know is I taught marketing research. So I included those two things, but kick it around. I mean, I put this up here first because I want to get agreement on this is what our objective should be for the survey before we completely write the rest of the survey. Are we missing anything? Should it be property owners? I start thinking of renters, but yeah, property owners. Do we want Ocean Pine residents? Who do you want to fill out the survey?
Members.
Members.
members, yeah. I wonder how many long-term renters there are here. Do you have any idea on that? Jenny, how many homes are rented?
I really don't, and I kind of doubt the county does either, because I don't know how many people did their licensing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So honestly, I don't have any idea. I know
But I
there's a
think
lot
the
less.
community needs to,
Huh?
I'm sorry, I was going to say the community needs to meet the needs of those people too. Because the people who own those properties are going to need to rent them if that's their business model, so to speak.
I'll
But
tell
I
you, a
think,
lot of them are being sold right now, and I know that rentals are very, very hard to come by because the owners are selling them to
to move down here.
capitalize on the marketplace right now.
So if we surveyed Ocean Pines members, does that exclude the renters?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, the members
I
of
just
the
don't know. I
property
mean,
owners.
this is like I just want to be clear on, I'm not that strong with, okay.
Yeah.
So you want the members, okay. And when you do an email blast, Josh, or your newsletter, does that go to members and renters or just members?
The newsletter goes to everybody who owns a property or who has a residential address. So it goes to all the homeowners and all the properties. The e-blast goes to whoever signed up. It could be anybody. It's open to the public.
So we just need to, so we talked about including it on those things, so we just need to ask that question, be able to separate that out. That's our target, but we might get renters, and we want to be able to identify that as the renters wanted this, or we're not going to look at those data because they're not members, or be able to cut the data.
I
Okay,
thought to send this out to them and have them respond then.
it's going to be, hopefully 90% of it's online. Hopefully it's they click on a survey button and.
Click a
I
link.
kind of
Click a link.
recall, I thought one time, Josh, I thought you said one time that there is a certain percentage of members, owners, whatever, of which you have no email address for. Is
Right.
that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any idea what that number is?
Not offhand. No, that's something in the membership office. And
Yeah,
it
I think
changes all the time.
Suzanne has that.
Yeah.
Though, because I think she told us, we talked about this at budget time, and I don't remember what she told us. But we could get her, best guesstimate on that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what that percentage may be and what impact that would have in terms of the responses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we only have one email per residence? Just curious. I mean, how, like my husband has an email, you know what I mean?
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
it varies.
I would say it varies, yeah.
It's all over the board.
Do any other sections of Ocean Pines have their own, like, where I live, they do, and, they have emails listed, they provide a publication, a community newsletter just for our section that has all the emails in it.
But
Does
even
anybody
so,
else
that
have
doesn't even have all the emails.
No, it doesn't, but it has a good portion of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Where I am.
there's several sections that do that, I think. I
Okay.
think interlinks
Okay.
maybe, and
That's the one I was.
So,
Harbor Village, do they do?
yeah, I think they do.
so change it to Ocean Pine members and make sure we capture, other categories, which is why we'll need this input. As I started writing that question up, so we'll come back to that. So otherwise, is that pretty accurate?
I think it is.
I mean, you can get input and not do anything about it.
Yeah.
If you choose to. And it's important to get to ask the right questions, but it's not like you're saying everything we get is going to be like in the strategic plan, but it's, you get some good consensus here. Okay. Okay, Josh, we can go to the next slide. I have it budgeted for another 10 or 15 minutes this section. Helen, did you have any comments on that? Were you good?
No, it's fine. Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
I'm here. Mhm.
One of the things I did with my students is they'd have to do a research project, and it was all about writing a clear research objective to see if the questions tied into what the objective was. So anyway,
Well, can I make one comment since you asked?
yes.
Just as I read this, is this will be on the survey itself, the objective of this survey?
It will be written in a very friendly way. It will be like,
Okay.
hey, thank you for participating in that. This is based, this is the Ocean Pines volunteer strategic planning meeting,
Got it,
working to
got it.
help the community develop a long-range plan. We love your input. Your input is confidential. Your individual answers will not be shared. It should take you about 15 minutes. Thank you very much for completing the survey. So it'll be something like that.
Because when I just first saw, the word the long range plan, I just could envision some people that I even know would say, oh my God, what long range plan are they talking about now? What's going to
Yeah.
change here at Ocean Pine,
And I
but-
purposely did that versus I thought maybe people would react negatively to a strategic plan instead of long-range plan, but it will probably be in development of a longer range plan. We'd like your input or something
Just
like that.
semantic. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
it
you
will-
could put in your objective that it's for the development of the long-range plan,
Yeah.
because we don't have a long-range plan
Yeah,
right now.
Mhm.
And I think, Helen, your point's well taken, that people might scoff at that because they know that this has been a need for a while.
Mhm.
yeah. Anytime I bring up something, Helen, I'm always, I know the process, but I don't know, like, again, I've done this in business. And I know I have to make it very user-friendly. And you'll have a chance to see the final survey and provide that feedback as well, but this is good stuff. But this is the most one I want to spend the most time on. So, Josh, if you want to go to the next slide, please. So you can just click through the whole thing and I'll talk to it. So obtain input, we'll change the wording on that. We want to include, and I'm going to give you an example how this would work. Identification of what is most important to the Ocean Pines members. And also how members feel Ocean Pines is doing relative to what's important. And when you do this, and I can show you that, you'll find a gap. It's like, this is what's important to them. But this is how they feel we're doing. We need to work on these three areas relative to our homeowners, point of view, that we're not doing a great job. It's very important. I mean, so you also find things that aren't that important. It's like, hey, this is only ranked a 5 out of a 10, and we're not doing great on it. That's okay. It's not a big deal. But those that are ranked 9 and we're doing a 2, we got a huge gap here. We need to work on that. So that's how the process works. I'll call it a gap analysis. Or opportunity analysis, however you want to position it. The ranking core values, we said it might help to prioritize things if we include that. Third is prioritize opportunities for the future. And as I started thinking about this, there's a lot of opportunities listed in the different SWATs that we've done, specific opportunities. I'll throw out fitness facilities. I think I was the only one that put that down as an example, but this is where I think we do need, and the timing is great for the board meeting, is, what are they thinking? What's in the, I don't know, the process, reserve budgets, or what are they thinking? Are they thinking of building a new beach house, or a beach place? But we need to think about what we want to include in there to get some input, or whether we not want to include that, specific things like that. I'll go through the rest and we'll open up. It's a typo there, but develop an overall customer satisfaction benchmark for Ocean Pines. So there'll be some questions about how satisfied are you, currently with Ocean Pines, but there's another one called Net Promoter Score, and I'm sure you've seen, how likely would you recommend this to your friend or colleague? And that's something that's actually used as a good benchmark, that theoretically you would ask that one question year over year, or every 2 or 3 years, and have it as a measure of whether things overall are getting better. So I use this as a professor and just compare it semester to semester, year to year as an example. But you always hear, that is, if you're going to ask one question, that would be the question I would ask, is how likely would you be? Because that's like, if you're not happy, you're not going to recommend it to a friend. If you have a bad experience with a restaurant, you're not going to recommend it to a friend. And that's just a real key question that will be included to get some level of satisfaction that you can then compare that a couple of years later. By itself, you get a sense of, and my guess is it's pretty high based on the majority, but we'll see. But going back to, Anything else at this point you can think of? I mean, I just started to think about opportunities and I'll ask a specific question. Do we want to include specific huge budget items over the next 3 to 5 years that are being considered? And let the community sort of give their input to them, which ones they would support.
I mean, ones that are currently being considered.
Yes, or pie in the sky. It's a question. I don't know.
I think that's a discussion to engage the board on.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good question. The concern that I would have is that there are all kinds of wild and crazy ideas out there that aren't practical.
Yeah.
Because we have geographic constraints, we have environmental constraints that limit what we're going to be able to get permits to even do. The other thing that comes to mind for me, you know, a focus of the current board has been since I came on the board, you know, the kind of the ethos of the board has been to kind of shift this to a more business-like operation. And that is not sexy stuff, right? That's stuff like, you know, updating the HR personnel manual, looking at our bylaws, making sure they're, you know, decent and reflect, you know, good guideposts for how we do things. Our attorney has been telling us for years that our declarations of restriction are outdated and very inconsistent from one section to the other. We have not touched that because that would be a very expensive venture. But you know, but it's something that is always in the back of our minds because those are the rules that we as a community have to follow. And having good DRs from our attorney's perspective protects us as an organization and protects the membership as in terms of quality of life and in some ways sustainability of the community. So I think those kind of things touch on some of these core values, but this is kind of the stuff that most members are not even aware that we work on, and it's time consuming. And, you know, but unless it touches their life, like the short-term rental initiative, the public isn't really aware that that's a fair amount. The policy part is a fair amount of what we do in the governance. And, you know, it's important that, and I think when I look at these core values, it may fall under accountability and integrity, that kind of work. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't see that they're the kind of survey that you would do would really hit on those things. I think those things really would kind of percolate up out of the core values. So I'm just kind of babbling here.
He just convinced me convinced me why I would never run for the board. I don't want to work on that stuff.
Down in the
Well,
weeds.
you know, the other side to that is if you, I think you have to be careful what you ask, because if you choose not to use the input, now you have a survey that says this is what the membership says you should spend your money on, even though, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Is it's almost careful what you wish for.
Yeah, and that's why I think asking about specific major capital projects would be risky.
Yeah, and that's a discussion I want to have, and you guys are convincing me as such. So if we ask them whether amenities are important, you know, and they say yes, and they would rate how our current amenities are, whether they're good or not, you probably want to continue to invest in your amenities because it was ranked number one, as opposed to, do we need to spend $1 million on the beach club? Like, that's different question. Or do we need a new irrigation system for the golf course? Nobody's going to say yes except the golfers.
Well, and not even the golfers might say that because, you know, that's really a financial issue.
Yeah.
Is that going to make it less expensive to run the golf course?
Is it going to raise my green fees?
Yeah.
It's gonna make it worse.
And,
Yeah.
those are kind of the hidden pieces of information that, on the surface, it sounds like an irrigation system. It's going to cost a bunch, and it's who cares about the golfers, and is it going to raise my green fees? But there's a lot hidden in that question.
And we kind of found this with the last survey is we asked a lot of, there's a huge section on the amenities. And what we basically found out is that the amenities are used. Not everyone uses all of the amenities. Most people are amenity specific.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
so they care about what they care about and not so much about the rest.
And I think that's where the core values come in. That if we can get some kind of a consensus or sense of the priorities with respect to the core values, that tells us that, okay, the majority of the community may not use this specific amenity, but they're invested in us investing in all of the amenities
Right.
because of respect and collaboration and, some of these core values that are very important.
Helen or Josh? Any comments?
I don't have any comments. No, I appreciate the discussion.
We're going to get into, and I think that capital expenditure just really helped me a lot. I mean, I just needed to hear it from somebody else, and thinking through it doesn't make sense at all. No.
Yeah, I was just going to say, rather than do you think this or that is important, asking questions more in line with what is important to you. Let them tell you that we need new irrigation or we need a new beach club, rather than rating it on a scale of 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing with respect to the amenities, I think some way to ascertain how well they feel the amenity choices are meeting their needs. That they may say, well, I'm a golfer, but I really have this other interest that I wish I had easier access to. We don't have an amenity that covers this other interest.
Yeah.
Right.
That's excellent. Yeah.
And we did kind of glean that information before as well. And it was a fitness center.
Right. Yeah.
That
Well,
was
and bicycling options,
Yes,
people do
you're
want to
right.
bike safely in this community.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I started building a survey, and you'll see in a minute, and I could probably do it in 2 hours. But this is really good input. So you're helping me sort of think through how we'd structure this. But let's go to the next couple of slides. I don't want to keep you guys here all day. It's a beautiful day out. So just skip through, go through all the bullet points here. I'll tell you. So we agreed on the objective with some word changes. Here's another discussion point. Demographics. And so when you think about this, and I don't mean to be picking on Colette, but all of us are, not just Colette, but all of us, like, if we want to look at the data, think of what subsets we might want to be able to look at. And for me, I think we've talked about before, full-time versus part-time, we definitely want to look at that data. Okay, are there significant differences? What are they? How do we meet the needs of all our homeowners? I started getting into different demographics, and the way that will be asked on your age is, are you 20 to 30, 30 to 40? You're not going to give a specific age, it'll be confidential, but we'll be able to look at people over 60 if we wanted to, or over 50, and then those that less than 50. So those are two I thought we wanted to do. I also thought maybe families with children versus no children, or trying to dive down to what do families with children want versus those that don't have families. But what else might we want to do? What am I missing?
Interesting to me, the number of grandparents we hear from. They want amenities to entertain their grandkids safely.
Yep.
And I don't know how to capture that. That's not really a real demographic.
That's a good thought. That's what I'm doing the last 2 weeks, and I'll be doing the next 2 weeks is looking, and other communities have that. They have grandparent camps. I mean, and it's really, you can do it easily. You just, you just position it differently. It's not just a daycare camp. It's fun with.
Well, for example, I guess you experience this.
Yeah.
I don't have grandkids, but I have grandnephews and nieces. And I would like their families to be able to come and spend a week with me, be able to put the kids into some activities, camps. And, so I don't know how, I imagine grandparents look at it even differently. For me, they're not my grandkids. There's somebody.
Oh, just on that category, families with children home, families with no children home, families with grandkids. Just
That's great.
expand that one line to include that. Yeah.
Good building. And I've been going to every park in the community, and I see a lot of grandparents there with their grandkids, and I start asking them questions.
Yeah, good.
But I also thought it's a way to engage, if we can't get families with kids, is to pass out the survey there or reach them there. But the other part is just talking too much, but my granddaughter's 3.5. Well, there must have been 100 kids at the camps, and you probably see them around here, hundreds of kids, 4 and over. There's nothing for less than 4 in Ocean Pines. And whether we need that or not, I don't know, but I got her into an Ocean City camp. That's where she's going today, because they had it for 3 and 4 year olds. But you had to be 4, or she's not 4 yet, so it was like maybe 3-year-olds or something. But anyway, we digress. That's a good bill, because I think there is that need. We have a lot of grandparents.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of things, and you can easily, you probably don't, you can easily just create something, because it's doing what you're doing now, but just saying, hey, day with grandparents or something like that. Or
What happens now, if you realize that those families that have children, in most cases, both parents are probably working.
Yeah.
So therefore, in the summertime, the swimming camp, okay, where you send them down with the grandparents,
yeah,
which in turn, we either put them in camp or do something with them for 4 to 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So that,
And I'll tell you,
becomes a very key point.
yeah.
we got some complaints this spring about grandparents who are taking their grandkids for the summer. The parents of those children are kind of low income. The grandparents, are on a fixed income. They would like to include their grandkids in their family membership for swimming or whatever. That's against our policy. And so, we've had some pretty hard luck cases. And, I was able to use my swim coupons that I'm never going to be able to use and just give them to one of these hard luck cases. But if, that I think is a valid concern in this economy. So I don't know if that we should even worry about that, but we've gotten several requests and we've had to say no. So I've been looking for swim coupons that people can't use, so I can give them to
Just kind of
people.
diverges from that to some degree, but I know for a number of years, we had a number of employees at the hospital, for instance, whereby the grandparents were raising the children.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though the parents were still somewhat around, they may have lived in Baltimore City, but the grandparents lived in Baltimore County, and they wanted the kids to go to the county schools.
Right.
And that basically ends up with what you were saying, because now the children were considered part of that family.
Yeah. And so if these grandkids lived with the grandparents, no problem, but they're visitors. And if they were living part of the household, they could be on the membership. Not being part of the household permanently, they can't be on the membership.
Yeah. So should I admit that I got my granddaughter into the oven mitt class for $8 instead of 10? Because she was so nice. But the Ocean, it was
think that's something to consider. Yeah.
the Ocean City, was all about.
Stop the
it didn't
tape.
matter-
Stop
Didn't
the
matter
tape.
who you were, you weren't a resident, so you
Off the
paid.
record.
There you go.
Really good input, but I mean, I don't know that there's other ones that somebody's gonna come back and say, that we need to be able to cut the data more different than that, but the grandparents one is a good one. I think the other comment was.
Well, do we do the obvious one, the male versus female? I mean, do we need to go there?
You have to watch it nowadays, because I was.
That's a tricky.
That's what I'm saying. That's why
Well, I was corrected last year at the hospital. We had some students come up from UMES, and the big discussion was they were now considering themselves to be non-binary.
Right. Yeah.
They were neither male or female.
Right.
I just thought of another one though. Maybe it's number of
Yeah.
individuals in your household,
I'm sorry,
number of individuals in your household. So that gets at
size of household? Yeah.
size of household, you know, that you might have kids or are you single? How many, you know, what percent?
Well, that's what I'm, you know, again, with demographics changing, I mean, I think there are cases now where you might have a household that's just, you know, two
Yeah.
women, two men.
Yeah,
And they may have a different priority on their.
yeah.
Or a single person.
Or a single.
One person.
I don't know how many single people we have here, but.
Yeah.
I-
There are a lot of single seniors.
Yeah, single.
Well, okay, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How about?
Okay, some good.
Do you rent your home, short-term, long-term?
I was going to say that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a demographic you want to capture because those are,
They're gonna have.
They have specific priorities.
We were discussing earlier.
And we really don't know the answer.
Yeah,
We think
Right.
we know.
yeah. And this
Think we might
survey
have some
might be able to
ideas. We'll
project
find
it, but
out.
it's going to project it, but it might not be completely accurate.
Right.
But that's a good one. I added that. Helen, are you taking notes?
Yes, I am.
I'm taking notes specific to the survey, but I want you to make a point that I just thought of that I always tell my students is on the survey, we want to go slow to go fast. We want to get it right because you don't want to do it twice.
Yeah.
So if it takes us a little bit longer to make sure that we're including stuff like this, and this is a good discussion, we need to spend as much time when I create a draft to go through it and make sure we didn't miss anything. Because once you feel that, we will test it, you know, we'll fill it out, see how long it takes, make sure we didn't, you know, how easy it is. But once you press that button to, you know, or put a link out there online, you know, it's not, you can't change it, you can't bring it back and things like that. So just, I want to make sure I remind all of us that we want to get it right before we field it. Let's move on. We're going to run out of time here. I don't want to keep people past 10:30. So I basically gave you the way it's going to work is you'll have the intro to purpose, you know, this is confidential. Thank you for your time. You know, it should only take you 15 minutes. It's going to influence or in a very, and you'll have a chance to sort of, you know, reward that. We'll have a few warm up questions like, hey, are you a full-time resident? Are you, you know, something that's very easy to do. But then you get into, you know, 10 to 12 really key questions that we want to get at. And then the final section is where you finally hit them with the demographic data, you know, and it's nothing, you know, please this, what your age range is and stuff like that. But you don't want to hit them up front because sometimes people get offended when they're asking a bunch of questions up front. And we'll remind them that it's all confidential. The one thing we'll do, it's not going to be a lot of open-ended questions like the other survey was, but it's always good at the one at the end is where you have one chance to say, what would be your one recommendation? And we'll have to work on the wording of this. We won't do this today. What is one thing you'd like to be included or, you know, it's a chance to just have like, you know, to blurb out something like, hey, the board sucks or, you know, we don't need a
We'll
plan.
get that.
That might be
Yeah, put
there.
that one in there.
I have an idea on the wording there.
Yeah,
And this is just something that I think, instead of saying what would be your one recommendation, what I think would be very good information is what was the one thing that made you choose Ocean Pines?
yep,
That's a good question, yeah.
And I mean, I often do that when I'm getting ready to sell someone's house. I'll say, what was it about this house that made you buy it?
What did you come here?
Yeah, but that might have been what was when you bought it, but now, what's your
That's
Well,
opinion
and
now?
oftentimes it gives me very good information. Like sometimes houses are hard to come up with remarks for, but if you ask somebody, why'd you buy it? You know,
Yeah.
what
Well,
was
and-
one thing that, what was your decision-making fact?
And it could also bring good information because if they say something that is not something that's here anymore, I came here for X and we don't offer X anymore.
Yeah,
yeah,
There, right there, that
That's
can,
good, yeah,
that can present us a gap.
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, because, you know, that question there, it's gonna be hard to like, you're not gonna
It is.
count, you know, you'll do a word, one of those, you know, whatever those word things are, word pictures, but it's not something you're gonna be able to tabulate easily, but it's also always good to let people just vent or say something there. And,
What
And
you
I-
can do is a keyword
Yep.
on it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
You can get the data and you can use it, but you don't necessarily, it's a way to get the information without necessarily having to share the information. Like, how do you think we should spend our money? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can get the information, but
Yeah, we'll play
I'm
with
just-
that.
yeah.
And Bernie, I liked your idea a couple slides back, and so maybe two final questions. The net promoter score question.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from the corporate world, that was huge at AT&T. We did that consistently.
If you have,
Twice a year.
if you have one question you're gonna ask, it should be that one.
Yeah.
Let's move on because I'm gonna ask for some help here. So this was just an example how a question might look like. So how important is the following to you as a resident, whatever the term we come up with as a property owner in Ocean Pines, and rate each on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not important. Again, it'll look a lot different when it's on a survey. And you rank safety, you rank amenities. These are things that have been coming at the top of the list. Location's probably not that critical. We can't change it, but this almost gets at what you were saying to a certain extent, Jenny, but we could still include that at the end. But community appearance, aesthetics, parks, activities, and you might go on and include the other 5 or 6 top strengths, or, that we have. And then you would also then say, okay, how would you rank, what's your opinion? How are they meeting your expectations on these? So you don't want it to have 20 things there, but 10 to 12 or something like that, and we'll come back to that. But then that's where you get the gap analysis. But then we'll do one final slide on the survey and we're done. And we'll just wrap up the meeting in a couple minutes. So here's what I was going to ask for some help. We'll likely use SurveyMonkey. I can go, if anybody wants to go into it, it's 1020. I wrote to SurveyMonkey, I wrote to Qualtrics, which is the other big one. They're both software companies that basically offer you their services. To try to get a hold of somebody live, it's a different story. Unless you're a corporation that wanted to buy an enterprise system. It's the only time they give you a call back, the only time they respond to an email. In fact, I was going with SurveyMonkey's competitor, and all they wanted to do is they wanted to sell me addresses. They wanted to sell me things like that, to get engagement. And that's not what I wanted. So they stopped communicating with me. So I'll probably use SurveyMonkey. It almost gives it unlimited. It's $99 a month, but it basically would be committing to it for a year. So you'd have access to this to a year, but it gives you ability to post on. If you want to go in it at the end, we can, I'll show you, but it's almost, you have to just do it online and commit to it. And then they start talking to you once you're a member. But before that, they don't want anything to do with it.
They're not going to talk to you until you're a member.
Right, until you commit. So that's one cost that I'm looking at right now that will probably be.
One question on that. So if the association went for $99 a month, so any committee could really use it at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So it's
association.
not just
Great
Yeah.
idea.
this committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And actually, your second part there as to what was the cost previously for hard copies and doing all the mail and the return envelopes.
I thought, I ran the
Oh,
numbers.
that's
I said,
expensive.
what if it
Yeah,
was
okay.
8,000 that went out and they were 40 cents each and we provided a return envelope? Well, that's $6,400 just to
the postage.
the postage. So
Well, now it's probably even more than.
I think,
But yeah,
It
printing.
might not
Yeah,
make
the
it
copy,
for-
how many pieces of paper
It's-
that's
Right,
expensive.
and it may not make it for 3 months.
I think when we did that referendum, it was closer to 10 to 12 grand.
wow.
Holy cow.
You're
Yeah,
kidding.
very
And
expensive.
then you've
Yeah.
got hard copies that have to be,
Yeah,
The time for,
And that's not to say that the
Sorting.
association wouldn't invest that kind of money.
Yeah.
This is a high priority.
I'm sorry, does the association have SurveyMonkey at this time?
No.
Okay, so this could be though, something that would be
Right,
overall benefit to the association, not just this
right.
committee.
The only time it gets,
Okay,
as I understand, the only time it becomes somewhat of a concern are those people who either don't have email addresses for some reason
Right.
or become very confused as to how to use something like any online survey. But in all honesty, you can't cover everybody every minute.
yeah.
what if,
So,
what if
I
you
mean, how
made
many
it
of those 8,000 did
available?
we send out till we get back?
What if there was a computer made available in the admin building for those that don't have email or could go into the office, use a computer, answer the survey and leave.
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
That is, and we brainstormed on this
Doesn't mean they
before.
know how to eat.
I think the higher cost could be is if we end up supplementing it with hard copies and maybe this committee has to input them into the computer then. But if we start like saying, oh, if you need a copy, just call Josh and he'll mail it to you. Now all of a sudden it's time. That's where the higher cost could be, is if people want the hard copies.
Yeah, I don't think we ought to worry about that at this point. I'll
Okay.
bring that up with John and Larry
Yeah.
on Monday.
I like the idea of, putting a computer available to people. I wonder.
Because we spent that kind of.
I was just thinking, is the library still?
I was trying to get to it.
Is the library open yet?
Expensive, and that's what I
I
thought.
didn't pay attention.
In fact, I thought they were only gonna bill me $99 a month, and I was gonna say to you, listen, I'm gonna do this, and if I get reimbursed, I get reimbursed
Yeah.
for 3 months. I don't care. I'll
Yeah.
spend $300 of my own money, but when it comes to committing for a year at 1,200, then I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
not sure I wanna do that.
But I think.
I'll leave that all in.
No.
And then, no, because you're waiting to kick you out, you'll be sleeping on the deck.
I'm sorry?
Could you have a hard copy available and a Dropbox like we
Yes.
do? No, I mean, something.
That would
simple as
be,
that.
that would be a nice compromise where it's not
Well, for
costing
the
extra money.
locals, but
Yeah,
not for the
Yeah.
people. We have a lot of people who don't live here and
They
don't want
live
to,
here or have
don't want to
email.
come to the administration building during their vacation when they got
yeah.
out.
And where this would work is that if we do it and we get low redemption for a certain demographic, like the families with kids, example,
Yeah.
that they didn't complete it and we want to supplement that and get the right, get a minimum of 200 or 300. That's where, because otherwise it's representative, I mean, you'll be able to look at, did you get enough? So it's something that my concern is how to handle that or what we do. And it might draw out the process though.
Yeah, I think we had talked before about making them available at the amenities
Yes,
for people to pick up and to
Yep.
encourage people.
Instead of a Dropbox right there.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
that would be.
And so I think
And
if
it's
that's
not-
the case, Bernie,
Ballot, it doesn't have to be
would
that
need
secure.
put their address
Yeah.
on
Then we're not
the
doing- we're
survey,
not doing the
so that we're not
ballot
getting
form.
Yeah,
duped.
exactly. Just fill
Because
it out.
otherwise it's by IP
Drop it in.
address. They know that you did
Right.
it twice.
Yeah,
Sit there, fill it out while they're
yeah.
Hard copies at key
drinking a
amenities.
Bloody Mary at the yacht club or something.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a key amenity.
I'm serious.
I mean,
There you
the
go.
community center with the camp.
Put them right there on the bar.
Community center, put them on the bar at the yacht club, at the golf club, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's because it's not, as Mo and I were just talking, it's not like the ballot, it has to be secure and.
right,
Fill the
exactly.
survey up, drop it in the.
Yep.
pot.
Okay, so where was I going on this? There is
The
on
only
one
problem
side, I'm sorry.
with that is whether or not everybody filling it out is actually a member.
Right.
That's true. Well, that's true too, yeah.
Yeah, that's
good-
true.
Yeah, good point, Dave, think about that.
Was that,
Well, but the amenity where I think we're gonna hit the kids would be the community center for the camps and the pools that cater to kids. And I think the staff there know.
Well, the staff, if they had to ask the staff and the
Yeah.
staff could say, are you a member or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, 'cause
I-
otherwise,
yeah, putting them at
if
the
you
yacht
leave it
club
out-
might
if you
be
leave it out
fraud.
somewhere, Joe Blow who's here for.
Well,
several-
put that, well, you could even, on the hard copy, put that as a question.
Question.
Are you a member or not? And you
Yeah,
can kind of
that's
factor
true.
that in
yeah,
Yeah,
to data.
that's true.
Right, and if they check nothing, then we just throw that one out.
yeah, that's a good one.
But that
Right,
might, but that way you might capture those who aren't members but are, regularly here because their family owns property or.
And when we put out the PR release, Josh, we could just say available at select, high volume amenities or something like that.
You bet.
So here's the timeline. I said I could create a draft survey by the 15th. I'm going to target getting it done earlier. If I get my grandkids into a nap and get 2 hours, I could probably crank it out. But I was looking for some help. And I could probably do it too, but reviewing that previous survey for questions, because there might have been some really key questions
I'll do that.
that we want to ask
Does that help?
again or.
That's Jenny.
I think it was Jenny.
Jenny, I mean, you might just browse through it and say, what we're trying to accomplish here. These are some good questions we should consider. That would be great.
I'm happy to do, and I've got it already. I've got it. I got it.
Got it all done?
Well, you did the survey in your communications
We did the
advisory
survey.
committee. And so you have a good sense, based on that summary, like what was useful, you know?
Yeah.
No. So that'd be great. And then,
And you want to do that for the 15th?
ideally, yes. I mean, or, yeah. I want to create a draft and send it out to this committee by then. I got interviewed the other day by the Progress and they said, what if homeowners wanted to ask questions? I'm like, sure, send me an email. And I said by the 15th. I doubt if anybody's
Whose
going to ask.
email
me
address
questions.
did you put out there?
I did yours. No. I gave them mine. I thought about that. And if I, it's, you want inclusiveness. But anyway, what I'll do is get this out to the committee and whether we have, it might be, I don't know if you want to have a meeting like this or just respond on email. Any thoughts? On final input to the survey or input to the survey?
Either way is good.
Yeah, get on a quick call.
Yeah, okay.
So
So it'll be a mid-month call.
Yeah.
Well, our next meeting is the 24th, but I'm trying to get this done early. When I think of all the people that are here for the summer, it'd be great to field this, say,
Yeah.
early August
Yeah.
instead of September 1st,
Yeah.
but I'm not willing to commit to that
No.
because we all have other priorities. I have some experts that are in marketing research. I have friends that are in strategy, and I just want them to look at it too. It'll be independent. So I don't want to just be, I have some peers that I would just lean on and say, hey, can you take a look at this? And, are we asking it the right way and things like that? I'm pretty good at asking, writing the right questions, like how to word them so you're not leading people. Like, don't you think Ocean Pines is a great place to live? Yes or no? Or hey, don't you think you need a new beach club? Once you field the survey, you get results and you'll be able to see number of completions. I think under this process, you get 3 or 4 or 5 seats that people can look at it. You'll have access, Colette will give you access that you can see it coming in. The question is, how many are we going to get and which demographic and how long is it going to take? So the sooner we get it out, the better. But like we said, hard copies maybe at amenities with drop boxes will be good. I think that's it for that, but that's the timeline. I think it's going to be really good information and it's going to be much simpler and more usable than the last one. I'll commit to that. Again, we want to remember, go slow to go fast. We want to get this right. We don't want to go back 2 months later and say, oh, we forgot to ask you something. And this is good timing to go to the board too, like to just say, here, we're getting close. We want to let you know, these are the types of questions we'll be asking. Let's wrap up here.
Question
You can look.
is, is Colette or taking that Survey Monkey issue to the board at all,
I'm going to take it to John and Larry on Monday.
Okay.
And get, find out from John, first of all, if he's prepared to, because it's not budgeted, if he's prepared to fund it. And then I could take it to the board by email, but in advance of the July meeting.
I think one of the big points you could throw in there is the fact that it'd be a lot less expensive than doing a mailing.
Oh, God.
I think we're going to have to do a mailing. I think the board will support that. John will spend $1,800, I know, or he'll have $1,200, I know that. But what I would like to know is the commitment to also do the mailing and how much that would cost. And I'm pretty sure that he's going to commit to that because
I think also throw in the idea that we just had, you put it in certain amenities and had people fill out, which actually do some of that.
But what I'm concerned about are the people that are part-timers who only come here a week or two a year. And, they're important too.
Yeah.
The full-timers are certainly important, but the part-timers are important as well. Because their assessment dollars are going to be spent on
stuff. Especially if they don't have email addresses.
Josh, start scrolling through this.
Yeah, let's get through that. Yeah. That information as to what percentage of the.
So we're still up there, but once we get the survey done, it's going to be like, hey, what did we learn? What are the summaries and go from there. We talked about even sharing this in a town hall and things like that, but skip through 2 charts or the next slide. So this is what we shared last month. We're pretty much on time for this, but when I looked at this next slide, Josh, if you don't mind, community core values, we nailed that. These are the dates I had on before with the kind of the no symbol, July, August, summarize current situation. We really can't summarize too much until we get this survey done. We talked about Mo summarizing the benchmarking a little bit and being able to wrap up that. So there's not much we can do until the survey's done. So the issue is trying to get that survey completed and start assessing the information. So my point was here is that, geez, I'd rather be, conservative. So maybe the original numbers were optimistic and these are more conservative, October, November, December. But Colette keeps on reminding us to do it right. If you think of it, one doesn't exist. So in the corporate world, well, it's like the plan has to be done. You got to deliver this by this, or, and it's always like by this date, and I'm killing myself to get something done. Maybe as a volunteer committee, we're not under as much pressure since one doesn't exist. It's the first time we're doing it, but we'll continue to do the best we can. I'm trying to be, I hate being interviewed by the press. That's my least favorite thing. So if anybody wants to do that in the future, you can do that. But I always try to be very conservative with what we're committing to. But as we get close to the survey and fielding it, boom, we want to get the word out. I just wanted to share this timetable and how it might change based on we really can't do stuff until we get the survey results. And if we're mailing things, it might even be later. Let's go to the last slide. I think it's just next meeting and where we have it and things like that. We're over 10:30. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's the last one there. I'm not sure we're going to get kicked out of here. That's in the appendix. This is what we created before I just updated it. And that's an example of what the plan could look like. I'm sorry to do this to you, Josh. The next meeting, I think, is the 24th. I'm guessing we want to have it the same format.
That's
like this.
22nd?
Is it 22nd? Okay, yeah. So it's actually
fourth Thursday.
Yeah. One more, Josh, back or two more. Sorry.
Backed?
Yeah, I mean, to where we were before. Yeah, you're in the appendix, so you want to go back. We never leave time for open discussion, but I think we have a fair amount of open discussion on key topics here. Next meeting's the 22nd. We'll do the same hybrid format. Like I said, we might have that mid-month meeting work session on the survey. And I will try to get a draft done earlier than later. We also talked about the board meeting on the 21st. We'll give them an update. Any volunteers besides Helen for taking notes next time?
I didn't volunteer for next time.
Well, you did it for this time.
I'll take notes next time. I haven't done that, so
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other thoughts, open discussion?
they'll be very,
Could
To the
Josh
point,
send
bullet
me your
point.
slides? That would help, or you send
I-
me your slides, but that would.
Yeah, I
help
will
do that.
do the minutes.
Yeah, and I always send it out when we recap the meeting too, but absolutely. And
Oh, okay.
theoretically, I should send them out a day before, but
Yeah.
like I said, I actually
might
finished an
have
online
that.
class this week and then started working on this. Open discussion, thoughts? Anything we missed? Josh, can you pull up surveymonkey.com? Or not?
Sure, one second.
It drives me nuts that you have these internet companies that you can't get hold of. Anytime I ever built a
Heck, you
website,
can't
it was
get-
always put a number on there that somebody could call.
it's not just internet companies
Yeah.
anymore, though. Can't get hold of.
It was like, no matter what you did, it was like contact, it was just really, it was crazy how they're set up. I don't know if they don't have anybody working there. So this is it here. Go into products. No, that's not it. So plans and pricing, I'm sorry. See, once you sign up, then all of a sudden, depending on what you sign up for. So this is on the left, business, go on the right, personal plans. I did some homework on this. So you have Advantage for 32 months, which you get unlimited number of surveys, unlimited questions per survey, 5,000 responses per year, custom logo, colors and everything. That was 32 months or 384. But I went into the Premier. I wanted to be able to, if you look at the next one, Josh. Yeah, down here, $99 a month, $11.88. You get unlimited number of surveys, unlimited questions, you get 7,500 electronic responses a year, custom logo colors, so we can put the Ocean Pines logo on it if we wanted to. We're able to cut and do more data exporting. There's skip logic in the questions, like if you have a question that says answer yes or no, if no, go to this one, it gives you that. But there's a lot of other things on ability to do it online. Josh, I don't know if you could.
Josh, could you print that page out for me to use in my discussion with
And it's
Larry and
Bill.
Actually, click on see details, because there's even more stuff in there about being able to do it on social media sites and things like
Okay.
that, which we wanted.
Yeah,
But it's billed
On this
monthly, and what's the minimum, Bernie?
It's $99 a month, and like I
But is
said,
there
it's $11.88. You commit to a year.
You are committing to a year?
Yeah, and that's what, if it was $99 a month and they're just gonna bill me monthly, I was gonna do it.
Well, I thought maybe there was like a 6-month or
Yeah.
3-month or whatever.
I'm pretty sure, well, I didn't press the button yet, but it says right there, they're gonna bill you. You're billing for the whole.
and so that gives us everything we need.
I gave, I looked at this, and even, I want the ability to chat with people. I want to be able to, if I have questions and do it. I've done this before, my students have done it. But this is a little bit more serious than, I want to be able to get help if I need it. And that includes on your mobile app, so it adjusts for if you're on your mobile versus things.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of good stuff on that.
It's probably worth it for.
Yeah. And I'm sure it could be used for other applications over the course of a
Yeah,
year.
yeah, and you could hire me as a consultant to write the
There we go.
questions.
There you go.
No, I don't want to do that, but I'd be happy to help. Thank you, Josh. But that's what I wanted to just show you, if we went online, that I did a little bit of homework, and all the things that the $99 gets you, the 35 or whatever it does not. And I think would be covered, and it was just so frustrating trying to get answers back from these companies until you signed up. So. Jenny, you look happy. You getting outside today? You're on mute.
You're muted.
Hope so. Too nice of a day to be indoors.
Yeah. I don't have anything else, unless anybody has any other comments or questions.
No, this is great stuff. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
My ride's here. My ride's here, so I
Your
got.
ride's here?
Yeah, I saw my ride for.
Oh, you got to ride back, huh? You're not walking home?
No, we're heading,
I walked here.
we gotta head out.
I didn't have a car, so Mo gave me a ride. I was gonna take a bike if I had to. I really appreciate the input at the meetings. And again, I know the process. I don't know the politics. I don't know the terms. I don't know what the things that we might run into, but some really good discussion. So you'll be seeing a draft survey in the next couple of weeks, and we'll try to get a meeting together to review it one more time, mid-month, okay?
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Rob, I'm going to walk out with you. I have a question.